are back for everything travel nursing. These have been so much fun. Let's talk about the interview. Travel nursing interview. It's a little different, but it's all kind of the same, and we briefly touched on it when we talked about submission. I wanted to go a little bit more in depth with this because this can be the most intimidating process. And unless you're used to it, unless you have a background where you've utilized either public speaking or have been in multiple interviews, it's a little intimidating. And so I just want to kind of clarify some things and give you some tools in your tool belt to help this process. What to expect when you go through a travel nurse interview with a facility that you are submitted for. Just expect anything from a single one-on-one interview with the nurse manager or the director of the unit that you're working for, or a group interview. And these are a little bit harder to juggle because it is a phone interview. And so sometimes you're on speakerphone, sometimes you can't hear as well. You will have someone asking questions that maybe aren't speaking really clear. And so it's a lot to take in, but I don't want you to be discouraged because it's manageable. Expect anything during your travel nurse interview. So this also goes to what they can ask you, what to expect from the questions. This can be anything as well, from your personal life. Sometimes is that completely professional? No, but try to have the most professional answer, to clinical practice questions, to questions about your resume. And also you'll get those questions depending on the nurse manager or the director that are the professional ethics questions. What would you do in this situation if? Or when was a time that you dealt with conflict? I recommend practicing in the mirror, practicing talking out loud, Googling nursing interview questions and just kind of speaking to that. What could they ask you? What could they ask you about your experience or your past travel assignments? One of the first travel assignments that I had, the interviewee actually asked me, "This is your first travel assignment. Do you think that you're up for this?" And so you have to find that balance of who you are as a person, your confidence as a skilled practitioner, and not being so overly cocky that you're off-putting. You are kind of your own salesman in that sense. And we all know when you're interviewing for a job, that's what you have to be to some degree. So I recommend that you practice out loud, you start verbalizing maybe your experience, a cool experience or an experience or skill set that sets you apart, that you can kind of speak on if asked about. When we dive deeper into the travel nurse interview, what are you allowed to ask the facility? What should you ask? What shouldn't you ask? What do you need to know? These are all really vague kind of inquiries, but some of the things that I have found that have been really important is one, don't be afraid to ask if they are a traveler friendly facility. Are they always honest? No. Don't be afraid to ask about the department. Specifically for cath lab, I ask, how many cases a day do we do? Are there times or physicians that like to work really late? Is your call team a 3 or 4 person call team? Are you scheduling cases on the weekend? What is your flow within the cath lab? You, within your nursing practice or whatever unit you work in, will kind of know those questions that you need to know, and don't assume that every unit is exactly the same. Every facility that I have been to have had their own processes, even though we're all doing the same thing. Specifically, we're doing cath lab. It's been a little bit different. Roles are sometimes shifted. There's a lot of different things that you will learn. As much as I can tell you here, you need to ask this and know this or don't ask this, there are things that you're going to pick up in your own clinical practice with travel nursing that you're gonna be like, ooh, next time I'm gonna ask this. So within those questions of asking about your job role, do you work late? What's the flow of the lab? Figure out if you are going to be a good fit, because as much as it is them accepting you as a contracted traveler, it is as much as you accepting that position and accepting that you are a good fit for that. And if you aren't, it's not the right assignment for you, and that is totally okay. If it does look like it is the right assignment for you, I am very forward in my requested time off when I am interviewing with the nurse manager or the director of the unit, the director of cath lab. I say, you know, I have these dates, I hope that they're not an issue. We'll sometimes say this is why, but a lot of times it is just, these are my requested dates. So traveler etiquette within the interview is anything financial or pay or anything is discussed with your recruiter. That is not something that I bring up in the interview. It is not the facility. That relationship is all negotiated with your recruiter and the company that you're working with. Facility will set a certain bill rate that goes to your company, and then your company decides how much they want to pay out to you. So all that negotiation goes on with your recruiter. Can they push back if it is like a crazy low call rate? Yes, I have been like, that's unacceptable. I know the rates in the area, to my recruiter, and they have reached back out to the facility, or they have handled things on their back end and made it a more fair rate. Totally fine. Financial stuff goes to your recruiter, not within the interview. My biggest tips for the actual interview process is have you a set of questions that you need to know already pre-written out. You approach the interview with kindness, with sincerity, and also a little confidence, because you have to be confident in your skill set, because you as a traveler are going to walk into basically a visitor's home and help them. Do you have the proper skill set to help them? Are you the best candidate? And you have to highlight that when you're communicating your resume, what experience you have, maybe why you want to be in the area. Sometimes they ask that. There's a lot of different ways that you can highlight your expertise. I had one interview where they really were asking me clinical application questions, and I had to basically prove my worth on the phone. And then I've had the complete opposite where it was like, where are you from? Just laid back, like crazies. Every interview will be very different. So you have to also be very flexible and very strong in your verbal communication skills, because all of this is done on the phone. Yeah, don't be super intimidated with your interview. They're never going to be 100% perfect, but all you can do is, one, be yourself, as cliche as that sounds. Know your skill level, have a little bit of confidence, and know that you are trying to help a facility that has a need, and they need you as much as you need them for your assignment. So I think we're all humans at the end of the day, and that little bit of human connection and kind of character, that's what's gonna bring it home at the end of the day. So good luck if you're interviewing. They do get easier, and they do become just like, I'm taking this phone call, I'm gonna talk about my experience. It'll get there. And if you are finding that you're struggling with anything in particular, shoot me an email. I hope you guys enjoyed this. That's the interview, a little more broken down. Some of these things seem just kind of second nature now to me, but I feel that people need to be reminded of just simple interview tactics and what you might be asked. So I hope this helps.